Good morning, y'all. This is Lee Burns. Welcome to our webinar, Places in Peril. We're so excited to have Kate Ryan with us today from the Georgia Trust. Kate's been at the Trust about 9 years now, working with you all over the state with important historic resources. And we want her to come today to talk about the Places in Peril program and see if she could share with you some information, how you can list and apply to be a Places in Peril for downtown buildings. Maybe you have some white elephant buildings. We really want to focus more on downtown issues that you're having with preservation. We're really excited to have her, and she's also going to take your questions and answers at the end. I do want to remind you that all the information about the Places in Peril program is on the Georgia Trust website. And without further ado, welcome Kate Ryan.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the Places in Peril presentation. The Georgia Trust is a statewide nonprofit organization for historic preservation. We've been around for about 44 years now. The mission of the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation is to work for the preservation and revitalization of Georgia's diverse historic resources and advocate their appreciation, protection, and use. We are headquartered in Midtown Atlanta at Rhodes Hall. We also have a historic property that we own and operate in Macon called Hay House, and we work on programs throughout the state. Places in Peril is one of our more significant programs. It began in 2006. In 2009, I believe, we had a Partners in the Field grant from the National Trust, which helped us expand the program. It is an annual list of 10 sites that are throughout the state of Georgia that are facing a serious threat. We take nominations for these sites, so every year in usually late May, early June is the deadline for nominating sites that will be listed for the next upcoming year. So this year in November, Wednesday morning, we'll make the official announcement of the sites for 2017 on November 16th. And then we'll have a reception that Wednesday evening, November 16th. The criteria that we use for the committee to review nominations is as follows. It's the historic significance. The site has to be listed or eligible for listing in the National Register. The threat, it has to be subject to a serious threat to its existence or the historical, architectural, or archaeological integrity. Community commitment is a really big one. We'd like to see that there's strong evidence of community support and a list of potential partners. And there's a section in that nomination form that asks for that information. Outcomes, this really important to keep in mind that our Places in Peril list is not designed to shame anybody. We really want this to be a positive thing, so we're identifying sites that are seriously significant and that are seriously facing a threat and that we want to be able to show a positive, successful outcome. The message that each site has will be a little bit different, and we want to make sure that those messages illustrate positive messages for preservation and that they also highlight a universal threat. And diversity is big. That's diversity as far as geographical distribution. We work throughout the state. We want to make sure that we are covering the whole state and representing different communities throughout Georgia, but also the type of the resource, the issue or the message that is presented, and different constituencies that are served, and anything else along those lines. So what are a couple examples of threats? That would be a lack of maintenance, possible demolition, neglect, inappropriate development, insensitive public policy, or other. And when you're looking at thinking about making a nomination, please keep in mind that the nominations are due in early June of the year before the site will actually be on the list. So if the demolition is going to happen potentially tomorrow, it may be too late for it to be listed in the on Places in Peril if we're not going to actually make the announcement for another 6 months. If it's something where demolition there's the potential for a demolition, but it has not actually been set, then certainly please apply. The examples of different types of resources, they are significant historic, archaeological, and cultural resources that we look for. That could be archaeological sites, cultural landscapes. We did have a historic landscape that we listed a few years ago. Just structures in general, specific buildings, districts. We have listed historic districts. We listed the Virginia Highlands Historic District in Atlanta. We've also listed the entire downtown of Sparta one year, so it could be kind of a range there. Archaeological sites, and then anything else. We've had a couple of folk art sites that maybe could fall into an other type category. So think broadly. One thing that we'd like to keep in mind is that in years past we have had thematic listings. For example, we listed Native American structures of North Georgia. In more recent years, we've tended to shy away from doing a thematic listing and really look for one key example that might be able to bring attention to a larger theme, but that would allow us to work directly with that one site and then have it show as an example for other sites similar. So after you're listed, we will notify you that you've been chosen, and we notify the nominator and the site owner. We also will we will notify any of the potential partners that were listed on the nomination form. So a nomination does not have to come from a site owner, from the property owner. It can be from just anybody in the public, but we will definitely notify the property owner that their property is going to be listed. The memorandum of agreement is drawn up between the Georgia Trust and the partner group that's been identified as our key point of contact. Why do we do this? This is to outline the partnership responsibilities and the shared expectations. And what does it include? It includes at least 3 different strategies or expected outcomes for the next year. And when we announced the list of places in peril for the next year, at the Georgia Trust, we really see that as our to-do list for the next year. These are the 10 sites that we are going to be focused on, and that's going to set our agenda for the year going forward. And some examples of those strategies or outcomes that we will present, and this, each one is tailored to the site specific, but things like work with the property owner towards a long-term preservation solution, including possible conservation easements, increase awareness of the site's history and heritage among county leadership, develop a preservation plan for the site, bring an increased level of attention to the site to promote the site's history and heritage, raise awareness of the site's current condition, host a work day for members of the community and the trust, investigate the opportunity for sustainability and future rehabilitation projects, and explore possibility of grant funding for rehabilitation. A couple of things I want to point out about this list. First, work days. We've had a lot of success with organizing volunteer work days at sites. Of course, not every site will need a work day, but if we can get a good group of people out there, have a day where we can identify a few key problems and help with that. It could be anything from clearing vegetation to painting or repairing windows. It really depends on how many people show up and what their skill levels are, but it's a good way to engage the public. It's also a great way to get your local press involved with that. We do have our Director of Communications at the Georgia Trust, Tracy Clark, who develops press releases for each site, as well as a general press release about the program and all the sites listed for the upcoming year. That goes out over the wire first thing on the morning of our announcement. So this year, again, that would be November 16th. And it grabs a whole lot of attention. It gets great coverage throughout the state. Local press where each site is, they'll pick it up. We've also goes out to get some national coverage as well. So that's really the first and foremost outcome that you're going to see right off the bat is a whole lot of publicity for your site and for the community that you're in. And then lastly, when we talk about grant funding, very important, I want to just state that the Georgia Trust at this point does not offer any grant funding for this program. We have in years past, and we hope to again in future years, but at current there's no funding that's available for sites, for Places Peril sites. That said, we do help with looking for grants from different foundations. We help with grant writing. This past year, we hosted a workshop at Rhodes Hall, our headquarters, where we did a sort of 101 on fundraising and capital campaigns. We invited our current Places in Peril sites to come to that and learn about how to strategize for a capital campaign, how to the different steps that you'll take to roll out that campaign. It was a great day, and it's something that we hope to do in the next year to offer several different workshops for sites that are listed as Places in Peril, where they can come to Rhodes Hall and spend a day talking with their peers, talking with the Georgia Trust, and we'll have different key things that we think each site can benefit from. So it'll be general workshops throughout the year. And then after you're listed as a Place in Peril, like I said, that first year, you're our to-do list. We will work with you to whatever we can do for the best outcome, but we certainly don't have any illusions that your site will be 100% saved in that first year. So once you're on the list, you stay on the list, you continue to have assistance from the Georgia Trust each fall, late summer, early fall, once we prepare to make the announcement for the next year. We go back and touch base with all of our past sites. So I think we're somewhere around 110 or so now. And we update the status, and we use this Google map. This map can be found on our website, which is www.georgiatrust.org. You'll notice when you look at this map that most of the dots are yellow, which means that they're still in peril. Most of our sites are still in peril. There's a good growing handful of green sites, that those designate sites that have been saved. And then there are a few red sites, which are sites that have been lost. So a couple examples of those, some success stories to start off with. We have the Cowan House, the Cowan Farmstead in Ackworth. This was on our first list in 2006. It actually ended up coming into the Georgia Trust Revolving Fund, which is another one of our programs that deals with historic real estate. The Georgia Trust helped stabilize the house, and then we sold it through the Revolving Fund in 2011. It became the headquarters for a environmental engineering company. They finished the rehabilitation. It actually just sold again, so when we sold it, the Georgia Trust sold it, we put an easement on the property, so the new owners have to abide by that, and all future owners as well. So this is definitely a property that's in the saved category. Here's an example of a folk art site. This is Tassaquan in Buena Vista down in southwest Georgia. It came on our list in 2006. That's also our first site from our first year. It was owned and operated by a group of local volunteers. In 2014, the Kohler Foundation became involved with the site and led conservation efforts there. So it's now been totally restored. It's been gifted to Columbus State University, and they will continue to oversee the stewardship of the property and operations. And it actually has this grand reopening coming up next month, October 22nd. An example of one of those landscapes, the Dobbins mining landscape. This was listed in 2013. It's a prominent manganese mine in Bartow County up in northwest Georgia. It was threatened by a planned road that was going to go through the property. The family that owns the property had tried to get it listed in the National Register, and it was initially seen as ineligible for listing. After being placed on the Places in Peril list, our key agenda was to work with the family, and we worked with the keeper of the register and ended up reversing that and had it listed in the National Register. And since there was an alternative route for that road that was going to go through it, that alternative route is now being explored, and the landscape has been saved. Because of the success of that place in Peril, the Dobbins mine, down the road from it is the Stylesboro Academy, which we also listed in 2013. The family that was involved with the Dobbins mine wanted to pay it forward or pay it back a little bit, and they helped secure a grant of $20,000 that they were able to get for the Stylesboro Academy, which is an 1858, 1859 building that was originally built as a school and now serves as a community center. So that $20,000 helped replace the roof and some other stabilization for this building. It's not totally saved yet, but it's definitely in a better condition, and with the roof on it, it's stable, and they're moving forward with raising some more money for the rest of the building. Staying in Northwest Georgia, the Rosenwald School that's in Fairview, that was listed in 2011. You can see in this picture that it's completely almost eaten up by kudzu. So one of the first things that happened with this site is that the vegetation was removed, and the building has been stabilized. There's also rehabilitation plans that were donated by Joe Smith, who's an architect in Madison and Atlanta, who has worked with the Georgia Trust before. We've had a couple of work days at the site. We had one probably most recently in January of 2015. We continue to work with the group that's the Friends of the Fairview School on their efforts for fundraising to eventually turn this site into an interpretive center. This picture that you're looking at is a little wonky looking, but this is the East Point Civic Block. On the far right is the East Point City Hall. In the middle of the picture is the City Auditorium, and to the left is a smaller building, that's the City Library. There's also a park in front of the library that makes up the Civic Block. We listed this in 2015. The Georgia Trust applied for and received a Favreau grant from the National Trust, and that was to host a charrette at the site. From that, we produced architectural drawings, rehab plans. We had a representative from South Face who looked at sustainability opportunities. We also put together some cost estimates for rehabilitation and potential use of these buildings for the city. Presented that to the city, so they have really gotten on board with preserving these buildings and putting them back into use. This is the inside of the library building, and if that at all looks familiar to you, then you may be a Stranger Things fan. It's one of the people in the local preservation community in East Point who also joined us on the charrette works in the filming industry, and he was a key force in having this site be used for filming, which really benefited the building. It now has a new roof. The inside's been cleaned up. The electrical systems have been improved, and it is still standing for season 2 at least. We have had a couple losses. We listed, I believe that date is wrong. I think that date was actually this bib mill was listed in probably 2010. It was initially listed because there was a threat for demolition of the site, and then just days before we made the Places in Peril announcement, the building caught fire. So it was totally gutted by fire. It is still standing in ruins. We are hopeful that something may still come from the site, but in general, we see it as a loss. Rutherford Hall, it was listed in 2012. This is a dormitory on UGA's campus in Athens. It was threatened by demolition. It was going to be torn down for a new dormitory to be constructed. It did actually get torn down. However, it did lead to some dialogue with UGA and the Board of Regents about campus preservation plans in general, and we feel as though we've made some progress there. And then in 2015, we listed Glenridge Hall in Sandy Spring, which was a early 20th century house that was owned by a prominent family. The family it was threatened with demolition and development. The family did move forward with that. The house has been demolished, and there's some planned housing developments for that.
Was that the house that was featured in
Vampire Diaries? Yes, unfortunately, Vampire Diaries could not save it. So what can you do to help? We have these cards that we distribute when we go out to talk to different groups about their Places in Peril sites. We also have these cards available during our reception on the day of the announcement. You can attend the Places in Peril announcement reception, which is a great way to come out to Rhodes Hall, learn about all the sites that are going to be on the list next year, hear about how some of the past sites are faring, and really get involved that way. Write letters, email your city official, get the local news involved. Volunteer with the local group that if there's a Places in Peril site in your community, volunteer with the local community group or volunteer with the Georgia Trust. Come to our volunteer work days. Spread the word. Facebook, social media is always a great way to get the word out. There's distribute petitions, report on the site yourself, ask a local columnist or television or radio personality to do so, maybe create a blog, again, really hit up social media. Organize supporters, local businesses, or residents are valuable allies if you can get any kind of corporate support or different sponsors locally in the community that may sponsor a work day. We had a really great opportunity in Griffin, I guess about a year ago, where the local Home Depot store volunteered. About 200 different employees came out for 3 days of working on a building, the Hastings Hospital, and they also donated supplies for that cause, and we were able to repaint the outside of a nearly 13,000 square foot building and shore up the windows as well. Again, get involved with your local historic preservation organization and get the members to donate. Georgia Trust works because of our members that support us, so you can join the Georgia Trust and you can join other preservation groups. And just share the information, pass it along. If you are thinking about a site that you may want to nominate, like I said, nominations are usually due the end of May or early June. You can find our nomination forms on our website. Again, it's www.georgiatrust.org. This is a screenshot of their website, and in the left panel, it's all about Places in Peril. You'll also, if you click on the link for the Places in Peril, you'll also hear or see updates about all of our past sites, and you'll find our map there. You'll find our nomination form and also our fact sheet about the program. You can email me at kryan@georgiatrust.org or give me a call at 404-885-7817. And that's all I have for you.
And you guys have an event coming up in a couple weeks, right?
Our fall ramble?
Yeah.
We too, as a matter of fact. We will be in Savannah October 7th through 9th. for our fall Ramble. If you're not familiar with our Rambles, we have Rambles twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. They're 3-day weekend. Basically, it's like a tour of homes, tour of different historic sites. It usually includes meals and cocktail hours. However, if you can do just a 1-day or a tour only, there's lots of options for what fits your schedule best. But it's a great way to meet the staff, meet members, and see some really awesome sites that you may not usually get a chance to go into.
Yeah, and I would say for any managers who haven't been to a Ramble, this is a great way to kind of spread your wings and get a little taste of that preservation world if you're not as familiar with it. Like Kate said, they do them twice a year, and even if you could just make it for 1 day, just being able to go and experience that and see what they have to offer, it's a great activity that they do, and we would definitely make sure that you guys get training credit for that on your annual assessment. So it's kind of 2 birds, 1 stone sort of thing.
And I'll also mention something that we started doing a couple years ago is we call them expeditions. It's a 1-day ramble, and we will look for to go to communities that are something maybe a little bit smaller community, a community unlike Savannah that maybe can't, they don't have the hotels to support a three-day weekend of 500 people, but they have really great architecture. So, and usually we look for towns where we have places in peril sites or revolving fund sites, places where we've been working and we've been involved with. So we love to come to some slightly smaller, sort of off the beaten path downtown communities.
Awesome. So I have a question. I know that you had mentioned earlier in your presentation that this is not the list of shame getting on the Places in Peril website, but I'm sure just like, everybody has challenges in their communities, this could be seen as potentially a controversial issue. Just because a Places in Peril doesn't mean we don't know it, but maybe we don't want to recognize it in that kind of official capacity. So what would you say to a manager who's interested in participating in this program, but might have elected officials who might be a little hesitant to pull the trigger?
Yeah, really, I think the best way to look at it and to present it is that this isn't, hey, we've dropped the ball and this building is not in good shape. This is really, hey, this is a significant building. We recognize it as significant. The community recognizes it as significant. It really needs to be saved. Let's get it out there, let people know about it, and let's find ways that we can save it. It's really more of an opportunity to say, this is a significant building and it needs to be saved. So let's get on it.
So we have one question that came in. They were asking how old the map showing Places in Peril was, saying that some building, the Gene Theater in 2016 wasn't shown.
Right. So that was done probably around this time last year, and the Gene Theater would have been announced in November of last year. It has not been updated since then, but it will be updated in the next within the next month, and Gene Theater will be
announcements.
Exactly.
I had another question. So I think, obviously when you're talking about preservation, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yes.
And even getting on the list, I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee success.
Right.
But do you foresee that first year really can make a positive impact?
Yeah, the first year, like I said, really the impact that you're going to see right off the bat is going to be the amount of publicity that you get. So the first year is really about getting the story out there, getting the press involved, getting publicity, organizing your local community or potential local volunteers, but then building off of that, using that momentum to apply for grants, maybe organize a capital campaign, identify what really needs to be done and how it can be done. It's most likely not going to happen the first year.
Yeah, but it's about kind of like building that momentum and
building the momentum, getting people's attention, and really building the foundation for what it is that's going to save the building.
And for people who may not be aware, I know you mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be listed on the National Register, but it needs to be eligible.
Mhm.
So what would make a building eligible to be listed on it?
Yeah, we don't require a letter from the state, but certainly that would be helpful. Our staff and committee will look at a building, the basic facts, the age of the building, the significance of it. I will say this year, 2017, we are going to have something from the recent past that has not met the 50-year mark, but I think it's a really significant building anyway. So it's something we'll definitely be listing, and I think it's going to be a good one.
Well, that's nice to know that you guys look at it really case by case.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
We have a great committee. It's one of our largest committees, and they really not just look at all the nominations, but our committee chair goes out and investigates every nomination throughout the state, and many of our committee members will see at least 4 or 5 of the nominations that come in.
Wow, that's awesome. And just to clarify, just because you're listed on the Places in Peril doesn't mean you can't get demolished or torn down.
Correct.
Or something.
That is correct.
It doesn't necessarily provide any local protection.
Right.
Okay. Lee, do you have any questions?
I think one of the things when I was thinking about the list for downtowns and how it relates specifically to Main Street, maybe you could mention some things over the years for Places in Peril that you've seen in downtowns that come up, issues, problems that y'all tried to work with and really support.
Yeah, like I said, we did have the Virginia Highlands Historic District. A lot of that was listed because at the time there was no protection for the district. So looking at different policy, putting together maybe some guidelines and trying to find a way that there could be some protection there. We also listed last year Atlanta's historic houses, I believe was the official in-house. We call it the Atlanta teardowns or potential teardowns listing, but it's
I shouldn't laugh, that's not funny, but
it's not, but unfortunately it's definitely prevalent. So what can we do to bring attention to historic housing stock in Atlanta that's being demolished, seems like left and right, to make room for bigger houses
bigger,
on
better, newer.
small lots?
Yeah.
I don't know that we've found the solution to that, but definitely something that we've been in contact with the city about, and what measures can we take to bring this issue up, and what potential protection is available for that. And then I mentioned the downtown Sparta. Sparta is, we feel, having a little bit of a rebirth right now. We just had one of our expeditions there in late August, and we had over 500 people that came out to see Sparta.
Wow.
It was really a great turnout, and bringing attention to a small town like that its downtown is really suffering, and businesses on this main street are drying up. So bringing that attention to the city and hopefully enticing some people to come back and invest is a big positive.
Do you guys take like nominations for communities to host these expeditions or the Ramble? Like if somebody was interested in participating?
Certainly, yeah. It's definitely something that we'd love to hear from people if they want us to come. Usually what happens is for our Rambles, we have a long list of potential sites and places that we've been before. We always wait 10 years before we go back to a city to do a Ramble. Expeditions is a newer thing, and usually it's just happens where it's a town that we've been working in, or we just happen to drive through, which happened earlier this year when we were in Barnesville. We had an expedition there in early June, and that really came because we passed through Barnesville one day and said, why have we not done more here? It's a fabulous town, and the architecture is wonderful, so we had a really great turnout there. But definitely we'd love to hear from people. If you'd like for us to come to your community, then shoot me an email, give us a phone call, and we'll come check it out.
Awesome. Well, I think that that pretty much wraps us up for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I love listening to these webinars because I feel like I learn something new every time. And I think this is one of those programs that people feel like they know and understand, but may not know the full breadth of it. So we appreciate you being with us today. All right, and we will see you guys next time.